Okay.
Okay.
So, good morning. Good afternoon for you.
Good
To
afternoon.
start off with, would you like to say your name and where you are?
My name is Hanne Hostrup. Right now I'm sitting in my home in the outskirts of Copenhagen, Denmark. Yeah. I've lived here for a long time and I work here. This is also my workplace. I have my practice here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the first question for you is, who are you? Who are you as a human? And that can be anything about yourself you'd like to share.
Yeah, it depends
Quality.
on what kind of lenses you put on, because it can be answered in many ways, I guess. But let's take the facts first. I'm a Danish woman. I'm 86. I'm born in 1935 in another part of Denmark, in Jutland. It's a small. I was born in a small town there, raised there, very ordinary family, just middle class. And I guess I still am middle class. I'm a psychologist. I'm a Gestalt therapist. I'm also artist is not what I would like to say. A graphic designer too. Yeah. So I have two professions, and I am a mother to three old kids, I guess. And now my oldest is 60. It's amazing. So, but I have two sons and one daughter. I have 8 grandchildren, and now I want to make sure I'm right. I guess 6 great grandchildren or something like that. They keep popping up. I don't. Yeah, that's. I love to be here in my home and my garden, and I've lived here for 60 years in this house. When I moved to Copenhagen when I was young, I lived different kind of places. But with my first husband, I settled here and had children and worked. And so this is the facts, I guess, about me. If you put on a little more psychological glasses, well, who am I? Somehow I'm a very private person. I love to be with my kids and my friends and my dog and my cat and my chicken, and this is very important to me. I have boundaries where I need to be in my home, and this is my base. I have strong opinions about things, which can push people off sometimes because I say what I mean most of the time. I hope not to hurt anybody, but I don't want to. Some people would say I'm not so nice because I say very loudly what I want. I'm very clear what I mean, and yeah. What else is there?
What would be some of those things that you have a clear opinion on? I mean, do you hold certain?
Oh yeah, thank you. Well, I have. I'm very interested in politics, and I'm I'm very lucky to live in this country, which is a kind of liberal socialistic. So it's not socialistic, social democratic, and where I think it's a battle to keep it from not being too capitalistic, and just to focus on sharing and to make, which is probably not possible, to make everybody have the same possibilities. Yeah, this is a constant striving in Denmark, and for me it's very important. So I have friends who have discussions with. I never. Very shortly, I joined a political party, but it's not for me because I think it becomes a battle somehow. So politics interests me, and I try to keep track on what's going on in other countries. So I read my newspaper every day and I get the news, and which is very different, I guess. Sometime I lived in Canada and I was surprised in America. I was surprised how little you know about Europe here. Nothing comes up in your television. Here we hear about, I don't know more about America, United States, probably than I know about my own country sometimes. So we are very dependent as a country and as a person, and we are very dependent on the big world, which is very different from when you are living in the United States, where you're a big country and power and so on. Mm-hmm. So this has influenced me a lot, that we have to be part of Europe, and it's a sad time where Europe is fighting to keep together, and I can't do so much about it. I'm too old, but I'm very interested in that kind of thing and read a lot about it. Yeah.
And would you say that there's a particular value that you hold as a central value in your own life, in your well-being?
Yeah, I would say, which is justice, to be fair. So everybody has his own right to be who they are. I mean, that's a Gestalt thing, but it's also a political thing. To have a society which really tries to support the possibilities. You are not being suppressing or this is a value which is very important to me. To fairness, to make it to people to have the right to live the way they live, and some at the same time being supported by the state, because that's what they do here. Free school, free university, right to, you don't have an opportunity, you don't have a duty to work, but whatever you do, you will be supported by the state, which I find not much, but you're not allowed to die from hunger here or live on the street and too long. So I appreciate that my children, I sent my children to special schools, I would call free school, where these values were pushed on them, where it taught. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's important to me.
So a little bit about your history, which is not short, I'm sure. But
did you say you want to hear about my history?
I do want to hear about your history, but I wonder if, it seems like a silly question, but is there a particular moment in your life that you feel really changed or shifted the direction that you took or who you are?
Yeah, I think that the war meant a lot to me. I just started school I didn't start school when it started, but I remember the war and the Germans and the occupation, and what was really changing life for me was not so much that the Germans occupied the country, because they were, in the beginning, they were very okay. They were not very harsh. It happened slowly. That became more and more brutal and more terrible. But 2 or 3 years in the war, my father was taken to prison, captured, taken by the Germans because he was part of the resistance. And so for sometimes my mother and my brother and my sister, we lived in terror of what could happen. And So my mother, who was a very spoiled in a way housewife, suddenly should take responsibility for the whole thing and at the same time be very scared. That made me see her a very different way than just a little spoiled housewife. Um, so suddenly, my father was in German prison and they were waiting to send him to concentration camp. But for some reason, nobody knows how, he escaped from prison and disappeared to Sweden secretly. His brothers, who was in the resistance, that arranged this flight. So suddenly we had letters from Sweden, and he insisted that my mother and my siblings, that we should go to Sweden too. It's a long story. I don't want to go into this, but it was very scary. And so, you see, my safety somehow went away. This very ordinary family in a very ordinary city. We wasn't rich, but we weren't poor. We were well off. My father was an engineer. Everybody was just so normal. Suddenly, this was taken away. There was nothing normal. And it left me with a big fear, in a way, of getting lost. We came safely home again, and life started again. But I never was really the same. Of course I was, but I got scared. Bad scared. And after that, in school, I loved to go to school, but I couldn't learn a thing. I was so blocked, and at that time nobody knew that there was something called traumatizing, but I certainly was traumatized because I couldn't learn a thing. It didn't bother me, but and at that time nobody noticed. So I kept. I had a hard time getting upgraded in school. So that changed me, and somehow I didn't feel safe. I didn't feel that it was just. It was something which was not just given to be safe. So that was a change in me.
A sense of fragility.
Yes, yeah, not physically. Yes, you might say that. A fear of losing safety of my parents and my home and my country, and everything wasn't so safe anymore. So that was a change, big one. Yeah, I don't know what to.
No, I'm just speechless. It's
Yeah.
So I'm wondering who you met during the course of your life. And these are such big questions of a human being who somehow touched you or changed you or made an impact on your life. And this can be in any way.
Yeah, sure. Oh God, there's so many people. First of all, my parents. I think I got a lot of support from them. My father was a very important person in my life. Never talked to me, and he was a non-talking person, but he he admired him all of us very much. He would support us, whatever, go through hell for us. So, and we knew that. That was important. So he was important to me. And I also figured out one day that he was reading the Bible, and there was nothing in our family which was religious. They were always laughing about it and ha 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 and God, who knows about this and shit and. But so he was a secret reader in existential literature and in religious literature. So what is going on there? So that meant a lot to me. I started to read a lot myself. Well, who else? Yeah, then there was, of course, my all the boys I fell in love with. They meant a lot. And my teachers, mostly I loved my teachers. I didn't learn a thing, but they liked me and I liked them and I had fun. So, um, um, my is a little not. My children means a lot to me. They influenced me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I took care of them and they grew up and now they're teaching me, which is interesting. They're very, very different, very, very different. Also, the man I loved has really changed me, taught me about life and love, relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, my Gestalt trainers, especially Jim and especially Bob Martin, was had a big impact on me. Say how they changed me, you know, learning more and more about how my own response to the world were, and they did respond to me. So they were very important to me in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm. So I'll
And
come
some
back
of
to
my clients were very important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They teach me a lot.
Okay. So a bit more about you. I'm curious how you, I think the first thing you said is, I'm a Danish woman. So I'm wondering how you experience and understand yourself within your gender or as a woman. What does that mean to you?
As a woman, yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, I like to be a woman. I had struggled in the beginning of my life to find out what that was about, because my mother always thought that I was the wrong kind of woman. She was very feminine. She was very blonde and blue-eyed and slim and elegant. I was small and dark-haired and brown-eyed and had no interest in clothing. So, and so we were very different. She couldn't understand who in hell she's gotten there. And so, of course, I had trouble finding out how to be a woman if I'm not about being like my mother. Took me some years to find out. And to be a mother was more important than anything else. Then I found out that this is also very basic of being a woman, to be a mother. Of course, having a husband who to love and so on. So I guess my attitude to being a woman changed from being a little insecure and looking for what kind of a woman was I, to feeling safe and secure in the way I was my husband's wife and my children's mother. It's very hard to say what kind of safety I got, but it changed me and made me feel good as a woman.
Okay. So I do want to ask as well about your age, how you are living this part of your life and what that means to you.
I think I'm lucky. I lived so long. I'm 86, and that's not many people who get that. And so my age means that the future is shorter, which is a little scary, and uh, means that I think more about I'm getting to the end of the street, and I hate it. I'm very lucky that I have a strong body, so I can do almost. I don't feel inhabited in so many ways. I have no diseases, and I can do a lot of what I used to do when I was 40. So my age doesn't mean that I'm crippled or anything. I have a good body. I can still walk in the forest with my dog and for hours, and I do my garden. I repair my own house, and So my age is not crippling me bodily, but of course emotionally it means what is really bad about being old is that I lose so many friends. And the contemporary are all gone. So the loneliness is not, it's not something which can be done anything about it. I feel lonely. Not, I have friends, younger friends, and I see people, and but I'm not connected in a deep way to anybody anymore, except for my children. My husband died. That is the price of getting old. Except from if you get aches or so on, which I am lucky not to have. So that's what it means to me to be old. This, excuse me, bullshit about being old and wise, I don't think is a very good saying. Because my memory is failing me, and I don't remember. I'm not getting smarter. For instance, to be using internet and sitting here with Zoom is, I don't understand anything about it. I can bike a bicycle and have a wonderful little car and so on, but the whole new world, which is digital, is that the right word to say? I feel completely left out. And not left out. I can use it. I can use a computer. I can use my mobile phone and so on. But it's a very strange world. I can see my sons. They're very into it and know everything about it. And they easily in that world. That came very late to me. So that's another thing, which is not. I feel handicapped by age because I haven't learned about it. And I feel sorry about the world now, being older. Corona, the whole thing about Corona, because are we going to die now, all of us? And the whole thing about after the World War, we thought, wow, we are believing in a new and better world and NATO in Europe and all that stuff. But we really was full of, and in Denmark, we could, what do you call it, deny to have nuclear weapon here and nuclear stuff. So there was so much hope, and I was part of this all kind of never war and so on. So I don't see progress now. I see that we are living in a dangerous world with crazy people like Trump and Poland and China, and they're all trying to kill each other. I think that's very sad to see that this is what's happening over and over again, and it's like nobody getting smarter in a real way.
It feels, I mean, when I'm listening to you, my grandmother is 96, and I feel like I'm disappointing her generation and your generation. It's like, I'm sorry, we should have done better. We should have learned something from all of the work. But yeah.
There's some tough guys, some sitting on the money. This is hiding on that. Yeah. So yeah.
One more question about yourself, which may be a little strange, but I'm wondering how you understand privilege and power in your life.
I'm privileged because I'm not poor and live in this country. Privilege is to have food every day and to have a place to live and to have a doctor when you need it. And that comes from money and to live in a place to be able to earn your own money and support yourself. And I'm sorry to realize that safety and power comes from having enough. I know I could talk a lot about psychological stuff, power, being powerful. I think that's great. But real power comes from physical, political situation, depending on what society you live in and who your parents were. And it's a long discussion about what power is. And I think that power can be emotional, it can be physical, but it certainly also is something which you get from the field, the society, and your upbringing.
Mm-hmm. And social and political and economic.
Right, yeah. Sometimes I feel a little, I'm not fond of therapy, which therapists who are ignoring that fact of the social issues. It is important where, in which country you live. It is important in how your economic situation is, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of, mostly about it. Yeah.
Okay. So switching a bit now, I would like to know how you found Gestalt or how it found you.
Both. I was in my apprenticeship as a psychology student. I finished my study very late because I had this other profession as a graphic designer, which I had for 20 years. So I was 44 before I started to be a psychologist. I had an internship in a psychiatric ward, and they were very forward, very interested in therapy. I had no idea what it was. And then American Gestalt therapists came to Europe to deep groups. And I was lucky when I was there to be invited into a group. And I couldn't believe my own eyes. I just fell in love. I think that was fantastic. And it sat right with me, the phenomenological approach, and to be aware of who you are and to come to your senses. And then I went to different kind of trainings, of course. So it was an incident. I had no plan to. I had no idea what therapy was. I knew about psychoanalysis,
Psychoanalysis.
yeah. Okay, and so that was my meeting with, as a American therapist came to. Kempler came and Natasha Mack came and Tony Horn came. Later on, Bob Resnick came, and I didn't meet him until later. Bob Martin came, and when I started to do groups myself, I invited them in as guest trainers in my program. So that's how I met Bob, and that's how I met Bob Martin and Bob Resnick and Gary Untip. Yeah.
And so what did you find in Gestalt? What made sense for you or what kept you interested?
It was a direct, no bullshit thing. It was a dialogue. You are here, I'm here, let's meet, let's see what the meeting is like and how can we influence each other. I'm not one up, I don't know what to do, I don't give advice, I'm not the wise guy here or the wise woman, but I'm another person who has my profession. And I like the straightness and the dialogical aspect and the phenomenological approach very, very much. This is which makes me sometimes a little sad that sometimes Gestalt getting mixed up with all kind of different kind of stuff, which I don't think belongs there. Because this is what I like about Gestalt, to be just say your thing, do your thing, see what you see, hear what you hear, and giving a good and straight feedback as part of the dialogue. This is what I like. Yeah.
So this is maybe an odd question, but you mentioned that you sort of got stuck after the war because of the trauma. Do you think Gestalt helped with that? Was that part of dealing with trauma?
I learned what it did to me, which the clarity and the awareness of why I do what I do, but I don't think it went away. It doesn't go away. I can handle it maybe in a more better way, and I know what to avoid because I can't handle it. So it made me, Gestalt made me aware of what's good for me and especially my boundaries. Was very important. So, which I learned about Gestalt. So my boundaries are my boundaries, and they're okay. And this is what is. I don't think my trauma. I'm still inside a little scared girl who is afraid of getting lost. That never goes away, and but I know how to be in the world with it, which I might not have known without Gestalt so well. So I know how to be with my scars and my strengths and my weakness, which that I learned from Gestalt. How to be with it, how to be in the world and with other people.
And so what have you done with Gestalt? What have you done in your work or in your projects?
What have I done with it? Well, I have my practice with individual clients. I have my group. I do supervision, and for many years I had training groups, and it was hard work, interesting learning. I stopped that some years ago to have my own training group. I think that was too hard for me, too much work. So what I did, I supported as well as I could other Gestalt therapists in their work by supervising them, by having groups of colleagues where we made not a union, a little group of people who are called Gestalt therapists in Denmark and so on. So, which I was very much starting it. Yeah. Together with another guy and we call Michael Hanne. We have done a lot of this to support the Gestalt milieu in Denmark. He's living in Jutland, I'm living in Copenhagen, so we meet and do something, or used to do. Now we're both too old. So we started it.
And that's not a small thing. I mean, I know that's not a small thing.
No, it was hard. It was fun. It was learning along the road, and we invited all these big Americans in, the big shots in, and gave them arranged groups for them. I'm not sure they were so grateful, but they came in, King of the Hill, and did their thing, earned a hell of a lot of tax-free money, and went away. But we learned from them, and that's good. So I learned a lot from the American therapists. And later on, I went to California and went to some art therapy group, and I went to Los Angeles and did a group with Bob, and yeah.
I'm just laughing because sometimes I bring American presenters to Mexico as well, and you just described the process
Yeah. Come in, they have big shots, and they have no, the people think they are wonderful, all of them. And they are, but go
yeah,
home.
I love you, and that's also true. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So what do you think that the American presenters didn't understand about
What they didn't understand.
what didn't they understand? What did
I,
they not
I've
learn?
just reread some letters I wrote to somebody, and it was funny when you asked me, because I went to a group with an American therapist, and his name is not necessarily important, uh, and there were people from sitting and working on the stuff, and how can you describe it? In the beginning of when the Americans came, they were just obsessed about hating conference. Anyway, conference, and they didn't understand that conference and being part of a family and part of society is a very different sort of thing, and that we belong somewhere. I belong in this country. And I am dependent on it, and I want to be dependent on it. I'm not free. This is not. I'm not sure they understand this issue, because there's still like free wanders around the world. It's like there's still freedom is wonderful, and I don't appreciate the kind of freedom. I think commitment and belonging to it is important, and I don't know if they know it. They talk as if they know it, but I don't see them knowing it.
Well, I mean, it's different coming from a neoliberal capitalist democracy and a social democracy.
I also think part of it is that a lot of the Gestalt society is made up by, there is a lot of Jewish men, Jewish therapists, very good therapists, but they have a certain concept of freedom. I think I talked to Gary Untitled about it. I said, how come, what is it in our cultural background as Jewish and Danish? What's the difference? And it's really dangerous stuff here. I mean,
You don't have to resolve it.
no. I will want to say, because I think that was very much part of the starting in Gestalt. Peirce, who was a Jewish guy who ran away from Germany, refugees, their sense of freedom and not connecting is very much part of their DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that became very much part of Gestalt therapy, that connection. And I think part of them, they couldn't really differentiate between connecting with a country and a society and a family and being conference and dependent. Maybe they can now, but
No, that's interesting. It sounds like a very sort of challenging mix to
because they're
balance.
travelers, see how the therapists, the American therapists, they travel around the world. No, none. Some of them don't even they don't spend very much time at home. I would go crazy if it was me. Really, I would. I couldn't live. I would fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of that's a big difference, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They can live as free around in the world and feeling good. I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, yes, I can travel. I can go to a hotel and say hello, but I want to come home. Yeah.
So between the cultural differences and all of the personal processes that come with running groups, I'm wondering what some of the memories, the positive highlights of your experiences with Gestalt are that stay with you. Do you have a favorite story? Do you have just a moment that comes up either with yourself or with a group or?
I don't, I don't think I can.
I know it's years of your life, and
I'm
the
not,
question is very silly.
there are so many. I mean, I remember being with Jim. Now we talked about social differences and Jim Simkin, and we were both together like two terriers. I loved him, and I think he didn't love me. He respected me. Um, and in the breaks, I would say to him, Jim, why do we never talk politics here? That you are having people in coming from so different countries, and we are never talking the differences here. And we just say, he tried, but he couldn't. He could not do it. And it's not a story. It's just how a lot of the Gestalt settings were. They came a lot of people in, and we had met people from all other cultures, which was very interesting. And what was wonderful that this man, he could sit and work with them all. I mean, so there was a respect of differences, which was overlaying the political and the social layer. And I think that's what I gained a lot from being in therapy and being with very good therapists, that I could see how they were able to sit, not to sit, yeah, mostly they said, and being with people from different kinds of world and being in contact and doing what they had to do in a very deep and good way. That was impressive. I can't tell you one story, but this is my essence of meeting good Gestalt therapists, that there's a humanity, and other person meet another person in a very clear way. I think that's a gift.
Mhm. And has this left you feeling like you are part of a Gestalt community? Does that mean something to you? Have you created a Gestalt community for yourself?
It's a hard question for me. I told you I was very private. I don't want to be part of anything. I go in and out of it. No, I don't feel part of a Gestalt society. I know that this is Bob Wesley and Risa's thing, and I love what they're doing. I feel I'm a Gestalt therapist who is doing Gestalt with whoever wants it. I cannot answer that question if I'm part of it. I guess when you invite me in, I must be part of something. Gestalt therapy in the world. You know, I have never participated in these big unions and big things, which is part of my being very private.
Mhm. No, and I appreciate that you're very private, but you're being very open right now. So thank you.
I feel a little ashamed about it, but it's not good. I wish I was more giving more to the Gestalt society, which I'm apparently not. So no, I'm really not. I'm doing my thing, and I'm yeah, and I go home again.
I don't think there's an obligation, I don't
Oh
think
no,
anything.
I know, but there are many people who I love to be part of this Gestalt world and so on. No, I don't feel that way.
But what you say is true. A lot of us, and I include myself in that, are sort of floating, and we don't have roots in other parts of our lives, honestly. I think there's a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Mhm.
I know I meet it with Bob and Rita Resnick, which I admire immensely. I think they're doing wonderful work, and I like to be with them. I like to be them with their work and so on. But I can't take this. I can't be part of this big family thing, Gani. I have my own family at home. So
yeah, that's fine. That's what it is. It's just a question.
yeah. But you know, see, I'm little not too clear about it when you ask me. This is a good question.
That's fair. So the last thing that I do want to ask you is what's next? I mean, what is next for you? And what do you think is next for Gestalt in this crazy world right now?
Let me start maybe with next for Gestalt, which I've been applicating a lot for here. Whenever I come near a Gestalt group, I like Gestalt Classic. I think it's a very dangerous thing in terms of if we should keep Gestalt as the wonderful therapy it is. It's a dangerous thing. It's not a good thing to mix it with all kinds of stuff, Gestalt and body, and Gestalt and mindfulness, and Gestalt and spirituality, and Gestalt and this and Gestalt and that. I think all this Gestalt and is poisoning what Gestalt is, because Gestalt is the whole thing. You don't have to add. You can do body work. You can have a spiritual experience. You don't work on to get it, but it can give you some spiritual experience. And so this is what I think I would happen for Gestalt, to be true to itself and to its roots and to what is really essential in Gestalt, instead of adding, which just doesn't give a thing, after my opinion. Okay. And so that's what I would like to be next for Gestalt, to come back to itself. And for me, to deal with the end of life, hopefully not to be a burden for anybody, so I hope to drop dead one day without being a burden to my children. And so what I'm into now is more to see my grandchildren and to grandchildren, and to just to get to know them and be happy to see them grow up. And I don't have projects. I don't have that many projects. I have just finished writing a book, and which is coming out here. It's not a professional book. It's just it's an essay. And I'm do little artwork, and I do little writing, and I do my garden. Not much. There's not much next. So if that's an answer.
I
next
think
comes when it comes. I don't have plans.
I think that, you know, grandchildren and children and great-grandchildren who have Gestalt therapists in their lives are very lucky. So I don't think it's a small thing.
No, I don't think it's a small thing, but it's not. When you ask what comes next, it just is. It's not, I don't have plans for next. So if that's an answer.
And that sounds fair.
Let's see what happens. Yeah. Okay.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to add? Anything else you'd like to say?
No, I think so. I think it's all. There could be much more, but there could also be less. I don't know. I don't have more to say. You know, it's a matter of. I say thank you to you. It's nice to talk to you.
Yes, yeah. It was lovely to meet you. And if it's okay with you,
I think it's time for you to go back to the little guy now.
I think, yeah, I have to go do my.
Yeah. So thank you for now.